When you build a sukkah underneath some people have an in-house sukkah. You open up the roof. And you build a sukkah underneath, and then you open the roof. We used to have such a thing, an old-fashioned one, where you had to wind it up and open the top. So, first of all, we have to be careful that when you put the schach on, that the roof should be open. It's machloikis. In other words, if you build a sukkah in a house, and then you break the law says if you build a sukkah in the house, and then you break open the roof, it's kosher, because breaking open the roof is a maisa of making a sukkah, so it's not tasav l'oim l'asir. Otherwise, there should be a problem, because you built a sukkah and it's possible. Sukkah in a house is possible, and then you take away the house, so you have automatically a kosher sukkah. That's not called tasa. You have to tassel. You have to make a sukkah. If you have made a sukkah and then it's not a kosher sukkah yet because there's a covering on it, and then you take off the covering, so then you have a problem of tasav l'oim l'asir. The sukkah is made automatically by itself. It's made automatically. That's not good. So you have to build a sukkah. So therefore, but the place can say that when you break a roof, that's like building the sukkah. When you break the roof on top of the sukkah, that's like building the sukkah. But if you have one of these, nobody breaks the roof on top today, really. But what you have is you have these open up ones. So you open it. So that is a halach over here. That's worse, because then you're not breaking the roof. It's on a door. It opens and closes. So therefore, there's a shayla if that's considered tasa v'loy min ha'asui. If you build it when it's closed and then you open it. So the Ramah is actually matir it, but the Bach is machmer, and the minig is to be machmer, that you should build this, you put on the schach only after the roof is open. You shouldn't put up the schach if you have a warning or something. You shouldn't put up the schach when it's closed and then open it. You should put up the schach only when it's open. If you did put up the schach when it's closed, so then you should shake the schach. Pick up the schach and shake it, each one. Pick up the schach, each one, to be machshavit, because you don't want to get into the shaila of tasav l'oim l'asir. We know a sukkah is possible under anything, an awning, anything which you're using to cover the sukkah for the rain. It could be a problem if that's up, if shasi put up the schach. So one should be careful about that when he's making a sukkah. Also, we put up the schach after the sukkah is built. We don't put up the schach on the frame and then build a sukkah. There's also a question of tasav l'oim l'asir. The schach isn't kosher without a sukkah underneath it, or without some part of the sukkah underneath it. So therefore, you build the walls first, and then you put the schach on. But you don't put the schach on, and then put the walls on. If let's say you have a frame of a sukkah, so you put the schach on, and then you put the walls. You shouldn't do it like that. You should first put the walls up, and then you put the schach on. It's a problem of tasav l'oim l'asir. If you have a certain amount of the walls, a tefach going around all sides, could be discussion. There's different ways to get around it, but you should have the walls up first. And then you put up the schach. So that's that's just when you get started. You should be careful that should be open. Now the halachas in the walls and the halachas in the schach. The walls could be made out of anything. You can make the walls out of anything. It doesn't matter what. I had a friend who used to make a sukkah out of. I don't know if you see them here in Canada, but you have these Coca-Cola. They had these crates, and they stacked one on top of the other very nicely. So he actually made a wall. His whole sukkah was made out of those plastic stacks. You can make anything. There's nothing, no din. But although there is a halacha here that Tafresh Lamed. It says kol dvarim kshem l'tzfanais. So the Bialach means the Bach says bal nefesh yochash that you should be machmer not to use something as possible with the raisa. Raisa oil is not noig like that. You could use anything for the sukkah. The question just becomes that if you're going to use a metal sukkah, or if you have metal poles, so there's a question by schach. There's a question by Sachs that something which is possible to use for schach, right? We know you can't use metal for schach. You have to use gedulei. Schach has to be gedulei minoretz. Right? It has to grow from the ground. It can't be makabel tuma. So in other words, if you would take wood which grows from the ground and make a bowl out of it, so now it's makabel tuma. So you can't use that for schach. It can't be something that's makabel tuma. So it says gedulim medakaka can be something that's makabel tuma, and it can be mechubal aretz. Okay, we'll get to that. You can't have the tree that's attached to the ground. You can't, even though that grows from the ground, the branches going over. That's possible. It's mechubal. Right?
It's an issue with the mats, right? If the mats are turned the wrong way, they can makabel tuma.
If they're what?
The bamboo mats.
The mats,
if they're turned the wrong way.
Not turned the wrong way. No, that's not an issue. Bamboos, even though they have a kibble, but they're not made for kibble. It's open on. It's not really a kibble. They're open on the sides and on the sides. That's not called
so it's
made
not
for
an
kibble.
issue.
That's not an issue. The issue is just if the mats were made to lie on. That's
right.
Makabel tumba. You have to know where the mats come from, what they were made for. I don't know what in China. I don't know what they use them for. But here, generally speaking, and in the world, they don't make the mats. The mats that we use for schach are not generally made for shchiva. But if the mats were made for shchiva, that would be a kelius makabel tuma. So anything which is a kli, what?
Made for window shades.
Made for a window shade is not a kli. Not a kli, even though it's considered a kli. Something which is made for sichach is not called a kli. Something made to use, to sit on is called a kli. Something which is made for a kli, that's a problem of Kabbalah's tumah. Now, metal, we'll come back to this, we'll come back to mats. But metal is kuli alma, is possible for schach. Nobody's going to argue with that, right? So if you have a metal sukkah, so we have a question called a maimid. L'chatchila, you're not maimid the schach, which is something that's makabel tumah. You don't hold up the schach. It's a gzeira. You don't hold up the schach, which is something that's makabel tumah. Something that's not kosher for schach, you don't hold up the schach. So even though b'diavad it's kosher, if you go to a sukkah and the board, the schach is being held up by metal poles, so you can eat it and you can make a bracha, it's kosher. That's what we paskin. But l'chatchila we don't do that. It's machlokes. L'chatchila we don't make a sukkah that has a maimed that's makabel tumah. So if you have a metal sukkah, it's held up by metal poles, so you don't want that to hold up the sukkah. So the best thing to do, or even if you have a canvas sukkah, right, it's held with metal poles, and even though the canvas is covering it, so some people say, okay, that's enough. The canvas is covering the pole, so it's being the pole is holding the canvas, which is holding the schach. But it's better if you put two boards, 2x4s, going the opposite direction across the top of your sukkah. So the poles are holding the 2x4s, and the 2x4s are holding the schach. That's the best way to do it, rather than having the schach lie directly on the poles. Even with a hefsek, even with a shmat in between, it's not l'chatchila. It's still, that's what's holding it up. But if you have, it's holding something else, right? So if you have boards going the opposite direction, so then the poles are holding the boards that are going the opposite direction, and then the boards are holding the schach. That's the best way to do it. Again, this is l'chatchila, but the evidence is kosher anyways. Maimid and makabel tumah. But this maimid comes in. Let's say you want to. We hold a maimid. The maimid is kosher. So if you build, let's say, a wooden sukkah, and you build wood, and you're banging a nail is metal. It's makabel tumah, a nail. So if you bang a nail in to hold up the wood, I think the name of the shir is the nuts and bolts of building a sukkah. A chazanish sukkah doesn't have nuts and bolts of metal because he held the maimid. Something that holds up, something that's holding up the schach is also you shouldn't use. So therefore, the screws are holding up the wood, which is holding up the schach. So he made a sukkah. He had a sukkah made. There's no. If you want to get a chazanish sukkah, there's it's made with grooves. It holds. The wood holds itself, but there's no metal in there. But when I'm out like that, the maimid is kosher. So if you're holding up the schach with nails, so the nails hold up the wood, which the wood is holding up the schach. That's okay. It's a maimid. The nail's not holding up the schach. The nail's holding up is banging in the 2x4s, and the 2x4s are holding up the schach.
The Chazanish said it by the whole sukkah or just by the schach?
The Chazanish said it by the whole sukkah. So those that want to be machalik that only by the schach, the walls are okay. Chazon Ish sukkah doesn't have any, doesn't have anything in it.
Those poles with the curtains, those sukkahs they would ever use the poles. The frame.
Chazon Ish wouldn't do those out.
Like a
But
coffin.
what?
It makes it like a coffin. Coffin doesn't have metal.
The metal, yeah. But
Try not to think of the sukkah that way.
yeah, but the mice are not knowing like that. Just, the whole thing is a lechatchil anyway. So we're knowing just the sukkah itself is the schach itself, or what's holding up directly the schach shouldn't be metal, or shouldn't be something that's makabel tumah. But the schach itself, but the sukkah itself, or whatever's holding that up, whatever's holding up the wood, that's okay. And now this gets into a shaila by the mats. Even if you have a mat that has that's kosher, even if it has a hechsher on it many times, it's held. The mat won't hold by itself. It's tied together with string or with some other stuff. So different hechsherim have different ideas how to tie together this mat. So the question is what they use. So there's a few options, right? They could use a string, or they could use some use these pieces of I don't know what they call it, reeds or whatever. So some use nylon, use a fishing string. Nylon it's not makabel tumah, but it's not really for schach. It's not davar shegdul min hakaka, so it shouldn't be used either. Or cotton. Now the shah's like this. If it's only makabel tumah d'Rabbanan, something is only makabel tumah d'Rabbanan. Yeah, let's say pshute klietz, for example, a tabletop. Tabletop has no free kibble. It has no, a bowl has something which is makabel. Let's say a tabletop has no kibble on it, and it's wooden. Metal is makabel tumah d'Oraisa, but a wooden kli that has no kibble is not makabel tumah d'Oraisa. It's only makabel tumah d'Rabbanan.
Even if you put stuff on top of it.
What do you mean stuff on top?
It'll hold something.
Oh, we'll get to holding something. But let's say you want to use it as a schach itself. Shivrei kelim also can't be used as a schach if you break it. So if you take a table and you break it up, let's say, and you use it for a schach. So it's shivrei kelim. Shivrei kelim is also not kosher for schach. Anything that's makabel tumah, the broken pieces are also not kosher. So let's say you take the stick of a rake or something, Okay. So we'll get to a rake. Let's a wooden kli. So a wooden kli is makabel tumah d'Rabbanan. Okay? So it's a whole shaila in the poskim whether that's also possible for schach. So to use as a maimid is a little easier. So if you have something which is makabel tumah d'Rabbanan and you want to use it as a maimid, there's also a room for debate in the poskim. But Shlomo Zalman was matir it, and others are matir a wooden thing, something which is makabel tumah d'Rabbanan to be a maimid. So now you have to know a lot of these strings if they're makabel tumah d'Oraisa or makabel tumah d'Rabbanan. After each one, cotton string, according to Rashi, is makabel tumah d'Oraisa if you make it into a string. Other strings could be only makabel tumah d'Rabbanan. So some of these strings you'll find the chsherim that use different things. And now you'll know why some people buy this action or by that action, because it depends what's being used to hold up this mat. There is an eitzah to put a 2x4 on top, but on top of it, with the winds it doesn't help. You could put 2x4s on top of the mats, but somehow the wind, it's like an airplane, the wind gets underneath the mats and it flies away with all the 2x4s. I tried it, with all the 2x4s on top.
Tie the 2x4 down to the frame.
Oh, so you have to tie the 2x4 down to the frame. So it could be that's an eitzah, because that's a maimid now. Right? Or even if you nail the 2x4 down to the frame. So the 2x4 is holding the schach, and the nail's holding the 2x4, so maybe it's a maimid. Now you're okay. Now you can hold the schach like that. It helps a little bit. It still gets in and out, doesn't work as well.
And it's on top of the schach.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little bit of an eitzah if you have one that's, if you have a mat that has things. Somebody asked me Shiloh recently about these lattices, these lattice things that I use. Now, I want to back up a little bit to give you understanding of this halacha. Okay, there are a few issues involved. If, let's say you have a, some people have in the backyard, what do they call these things?
Awning.
I don't know what name. You have
A trellis.
Yeah, you have something there with you have poles. A gazebo, something. So it has already wood on top, and a very simple eitzah to make a sukkah. Close it, and put schach on top. A lot of people want to do that. So you have to know what's on top already, because what's built there for the whole year is posel doraisa to use as a sukkah. So that wood that's going across the top is not kosher for schach. It's posel, unless you break it. But as long as it's built in, it's posel. So now the question is, how much space do you have between the woods, in order that you want to fill it with schach on top or in the middle, you want to fill that with schach, so you have to know how much space do I have between these wood in order that I can make a sukkah out of it. So the first rule is you have to have more schach kosher than schach posel, right? It has to be, when you put schach on top of your roof, you got to have more schach kosher, schach posel, schach kosher, schach posel. It can't be 50-50. It has to be 51% schach kosher and 49% schach posel. That's the first rule. Okay, if you want to make a sukkah out of a pre-existing a thing that's already there, you need to have roiv schach kosher. Right? That's the halacha of schach. It has to be chamsa, etzilsa merubah mechamsa. Make believe that schach posel is not there, so it's open space. You have to have roiv schach. So you have to have chamsa, etzilsa merubah mechamsa. Now this might seem simple, but a lot of times the schach you put on top is not fully schach. It might have airspace in it. Put a mat, there's airspace in between, right? So you have to take that into consideration. You have to have more schach kosher than the schach posel. And those boards that are built in the whole year standing there is schach posel. It's not like the boards you put on a sukkah. The boards you put on a sukkah to 2x4s to go across, they could be schach kosher really. That could be schach, it's wood. But the boards that are there all year, that's a house, that's a bayis. And a bayis is schach posel. So it's made to hold. So you can't use that. So you have to make sure there's roiv schach kosher in there.
The 2x4s are kosher because I thought actually you shouldn't sit under them because they can be used for building. It's not aren't they too big?
It's not so clear. They don't really use it for roofing today. 2x4s. They use it to hold the roof. The roofing is the planks that are put down on top of the 2x4s. But the 2x4s aren't really used for roofing. So to say kapashas, mikra adin is kosher. We don't use it as schach. We don't use it as schach. We don't use. We'll get to that. We'll get to it soon. We don't use it as schach, but it's mikra adin. It could be a kosher with schach.
So if we're talking about the space in this gazebo, right? So you're saying that space has to have kosher schach in it. But what about the remaining beams?
The remaining beams, as long as you have more schach kosher and schach posel, that's okay. Now, the schach posel has to be, usually it has to be less than 4 tvachim. You know, some of the 4 tvachim schach posel. And you have to have less than 4 tvachim schach posel. And then you can do it. There's, if you want to build under it, if you want to put schach under it, you know, it's very high up. You want to build schach under it, that's could get into other shilas. It's those that are machbeh, that as long as the wood is within 3 tvachim of each other, so that becomes like a lavud, and it's like sukkah tachas sukkah. So if I have a structure and I'm building underneath the structure, if it's within 3 tvachim, it's sukkah tachas sukkah. Now it's only a chumrah. It's only a chumrah. Yesh machmir, and the Mishnah brings down. But mikra adin, it's kosher. Mikra adin.
What's the schach posel?
What?
Normally, the schach posel that's there. Why don't you say lavud across?
Because if you have schach kosher in between, you're not going to say lavud. It's mixed with, it's only if it's on top and you're building schach underneath it, then you say it's sukkah tachas sukkah with lavud. But if it's all one schach, then there's no problem. You can make it one schach by you build underneath and you put a few sticks going up to attach it. There are ways to do it. But again, you know, when you're building under something, whenever you're building under something, you should get a rabbi to look at it and make sure that it's not an issue. Building on the trees, you shouldn't make a sukkah on the tree. If you're running out of space and some of the sukkah is going under a tree, you have to check. A sukkah tachas sukkah or tachas schach posel is no good. So that part of the sukkah that's under the tree is very problematic. Very problematic. It's all kinds of halachos. One is kosher, one is not kosher. You know, how much of a tree is there, how much leaves are on the tree. You know, you have to really see it to see how much. And it's very hard to also see when you're under the tree. You know, you get a laser thing with one of those, what do they call them, for the building, see if it's straight.
Level.
And then you have to stick it up, and then you can see if you're under a tree. It's very hard to see.
How could building under a tree be kosher if you're not allowed to use anything that's living, still attached?
Yeah, so that's possible. Whatever's underneath the tree, whatever's underneath the actual branch of the tree is to be possible. Now you have to figure out if you have enough schach kosher, excluding that, what's underneath the tree.
Does it matter how high the branch is? Say if the branch is over like 40 tvachim high, it's still an issue.
Yeah. So under a tree could be very problematic. Now if you have, again we said 4 tvachim of schach pasol, you can't sit under regardless. So even if you have, it's not so much of a tree, and it's more schach kosher, and your sukkah is kosher anyways, but if you have one area which is 4 by 4 tvachim, 4 tvachim is a foot to 16 inches, a foot l'chumrah. If you have a foot by a foot, schach pasol, a tree on top, that area you can't sit under, and they have to take that out of your sukkah. It's like it's not there. So when you're building under a tree, you have to be very careful, that the tree shouldn't make your whole sukkah pasol. It can knock off a wall of your sukkah. You have to know how it's built to make sure it's okay. Someone should be asked to find out if it's okay. Sometimes you have a little bit of space, a lot of trees. So you got to take care of that, especially now in the summer. The trees, the leaves didn't fall off yet.
So an area that's 4 by 4 tvachim. So that area you can't use it. You can't sit there.
You can't sit under that. That's correct. Now we'll get to the walls time later. I just want to finish off with the schach. So now, if you have built, so some people will put on top it's easy to do. You want to have something to hold up the schach, the green leaves, So you put like this lattice things on top of the roof, and on that you're going to put the schach. So you have to be very careful. This lattice is not pasal schach, because first of all you have to know what it was used for. If it has a din kli, it's pasal schach. Pasal schach, then you have the same problem. Is there roiv schach kosher in between it? Is there roiv schach kosher? And that's a serious issue. 2, you have to know if it's being maimed the schach now. If this is a kli, it's being maimed the schach. You have to know what this lattice is, what it was made for. Now, someone's telling me many times it's put together with metal. It's held together with metal staples. Now, I'm a supik. I'm not sure if it's held together with metal staples, if it's apostle d'oraisa or not. Why? Because even though it's wood, the thing is made out of wood, but we have a halacha that if you have a stick, let's say a wooden stick of, let's say, a metal rake. Let's say you have a metal rake. A metal rake is a kli. It's a kli matches. So I pull out the wooden stick, and I want to just use the wooden stick to cover my sukkah. So even though the wooden stick is not a kli matches, but since it came from a kli, it was part of a kli matches, it's makabel tumah d'oraisa, has a shem kli. It's makabel tumah d'oraisa. Someone once told me a shaila, they had these window shades. So he was talking about these bamboo window shades, but it had like metal hooks on it that you hooked it onto the like the frame. Yeah, onto the frame. So the question was, could they use it? So what's the shaila? The shaila is, does it get a din of a kli matches, even though the main thing was made out of wood? It wasn't made out of kli matches, but you need those hooks in order for the kli to work. Without these hooks, the kli wouldn't work at all. So it could be the whole thing gets a din of kli matches. And it was a shaila, the place in Toronto were handling whether it's pasal d'oraisa or it's just a maimed, And you look at this metal, it's just a maimed, it's holding up, a maimed, okay, l'chatchili you don't use, but do you have discussion? Or it's really a kli, because since you need this metal for the kli, the whole thing gets a shape kli. So I'm a supik, if the lattice is the same thing. Even if you remove it, it won't help. It's shivrei kelim, which is possible. Even if you remove the metal off the kli. Someone came to me with a shaila last year. Someone came to me with a shaila that they wanted to buy from Home Depot. They had these they had this fencing. This fencing is made with wood. It's wooden fencing, and it had metal that went through it, wove it together. Now he said, no problem. It's very cheap. Pull out the metal little things, and it has gewaldige schach. I'll put it on top. He wants to know if he can use it for schach. So I was very masupik this shaila. If it has a din, that the whole thing gets a shame, a shivrei kli, it's a kli matkas, the whole thing gets a din shivrei, even if you take it out. If it's just a maimed, so take off the maimed, and the rest is kosher. But it has a shivrei kli matkas, it's a psul d'oraisa. He went to Rav Palm. Rav Palm also told him that his Mesopik could be a din deraisa. That's not good. You shouldn't use it.
So what's the issue? Is it because it was designed as something already, or because it was constructed?
Yeah, it was already a kli. It was ready, a kli.
So it
A
doesn't
wooden
lose its status.
kli has to have a kibul to be possible. A metal kli, even if it's flat, it has a shem kli and it's possible for schach. As makabel tumah. Metal kli. So anything that has metal and it needs the metal, this thing needs the metal in it. It's not just a tuffle.
But he was taking the metal out.
Yeah, but once it has a din kli, a shiver keli is possible. So
It's not
once
going to lose its
no, it loses the kli, but you can't use it for schach anymore. A kli, once you break it, it's not makabel. Once you take out the metal, it's not makabel tumah anymore. But for schach, we don't use it. Exeru, you might use the whole kli. So anything which a broken part of a kli, you can't use. You can't use. So if the kli was made with metal, now you have to know, is that metal an integral part of this kli? If it's an integral part of the kli, you need it, so then you can't use it even if you take the metal out. It doesn't help to take the metal out. So these lattices that people put on top of this sukkah, then they put schach on top of it, I'm a supik, because if this metal staples are an integral part of the kli, or it's just a maimed azah, that's a lila chatchila. I know it falls apart without it. It could be it's a integral part. I'm not sure. It's glued also. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's possible to rise it, but it's definitely shouldn't be used. L'chatchila shouldn't be used, even if it's not a shivei kalim, but it's being maimed with double makabel tumah. Maybe it's a maimed, right? Because the staples are holding the lattice, and that's holding the schach. Maybe it's a maimed. So I'm not sure. If it's even, it could be it's kosher. On one hand, it could be it's kosher. It's a maimed, and the lattice itself it could be kosher. It's not a kli. On the other hand, it could be it's a kli matches, which is possible. You know. Ask your local rabbi.
It would only be a maimed if it itself is less than right, no?
What do you mean it's less than right?
If the lattice itself is right, so then.
Yeah. If the lattice itself is roiv, then you have a shiloh. If the lattice itself is possible schach.
So when help me?
There's another reason the lattice could be a possible. Shiloh's the lattice itself possible schach. So if it's considered a kli, it's for sure possible. If it's possible. If it's not considered a kli, so then you have the shiloh of gezerus nesarim. You have to know, because since it's held together, the Chuvas of Rashi by a sulam. Chuvas Rabbah has we could use a ladder for schach. So there's a whole shiloh if it's kosher as possible, because even though we don't use wood that's 4 tvachim wide, it's the chazal possible for schach. This wood isn't 4 tvachim wide, but you have a lot of wood together. That all together it's 4 tvachim wide. All the pieces together, even though they're separate, there are holes in between, but there's all together is 4 tvachim wide, and it's a hard piece. So someone, Rabbi Yashiv, held that it could be a shiloh of Gezerus Nesarim. But I think the other was makel on that. That's a shiloh of how to understand that schach, if it's held together. So, okay, so that's the shiloh of the lattice. If it has a din of kli kibbles makabel tumah, or if it's just something that's holding up the schach, and if it's 4 tvachim wide. That's a need. And Rabbi Yashiv held that since altogether we don't use beams that are 4 tvachim wide, we don't use the schach, so the question whether that goes into it. The mats are softer. They roll up, so it's not considered, even though they're held together, it's not considered one beam that's 4 tvachim wide. That's the shiloh with the mats. Now, so whether a mat needs a hechsher would be totally in the two things. You have to know what it was made for originally. If it was made for something that's makabel tumah or not. I don't know. It depends where it originates from. But the ones that are made with any hechsher are made for sukkah usually. So it's made for sichach, which is okay. But you just have to check the maimed, what's holding it, what's holding it together. That's a shiloh.
It was made as a floor mat, you just can't use it.
It's made floor mat, it's possible. You can't use it. There's no way to use it. That's something that's makabel tumah. Now, there's also one other small ha'ara here before we move on to the walls. So you mentioned the boards. The boards going across. So the boards going across. So again, the wood is kosher schach. What kind of wood you use? Unless it's 4 tvachim wide, it's gezerus nesarim. We're machman not to use a wood that's a tefach wide. We're machman not to use it. If you have a wood that's a tefach wide, a beam that's a tefach wide, the minhag is not to use it. So the 2x4s are tefach wide, we don't use it. Even if you stand it up
This way.
that way still, since the wood itself is a tefach wide, we don't use that wood. Even though you're standing it up. The slats that are smaller, so if they're not made for roofing, which I think today they don't use it for roofing, if they ask the builders how it's used, but the slats, so if it's not used for building, if it's not used for roofing, then they're kosher. If they're used for roofing, it shouldn't be used. You have to know what they're used for, what they're made for. I think they're not made. I think they're made for gates or things. They're not made for roofing. But if they ask a Home Depot what they're used for, so Olam uses the slats, the thin ones, the small ones. Make it in the kosher. The shaila, if you put it together very strong, I was once in a sukkah where I put it together very close to each other. So there are two types. There are ones that are rough and the ones that are smoothed down. So the ones that are smooth, if you put it very close together, even when it rains, it doesn't rain in. So when you have a shiloh schach that it can't rain in, is that called a sukkah sarai, a dius sarai, a dius kva? There's a shiloh on that. But Mikra din is kosher. Those that are harder not to use those, but to use regular schach.
So I have a question I'm afraid to ask.
Yeah.
What tying down the schach?
What?
Tying down the mat or the schach.
So the best way to tie it down, if the mat itself has some of the string that it's made with, which could be kosher as extra, you could tie with that. That's not makabel tumah. If you want to use something that's it's hard to find. You use a lulav there. You use things that are not makabel tumah to tie it.
Hemp rope.
What?
They have this hemp rope.
What's that?
You use for it's a rope from a tree, from a plant.
What's that? From flat.
Yeah, that you can get in the garden store.
What is it? It's made into a rope?
Yeah.
It's rough cord. So it's
Regular, yes. I don't know.
It's almost like a burlap.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is. If it's something that's makabel tumah, then you have
Plastic ties.
I think hemp is
plastic
okay.
ties is not gedulei karka, so it's possible for schach also.
I think hemp is okay, yeah, because I think hemp it comes from the ground.
It's come from the ground,
Yeah.
and it's not really made. It could be these things that come from the ground. What do you say it's called? I'll check into it.
Hemp.
Hemp.
Okay, I'll look into it.
If you put a board over the schach and you tie the
Yeah,
board
if you
down,
tie the board down over the schach, that's good. That's a minor, but it doesn't work as good. It doesn't hold down so well. The best way to hold your mats from not flying away is if the mats are inside the sukkah, not on top. If you lie them on top, any wind will come.
Yeah.
If even a half inch down, within, if you build within the walls,
A ledge.
it'll never blow away.
The way that it works is the sukkah frame. They have some slats tied with this plastic wrap to the sukkah frame. The mats on top of that. And then I sandwich it with a slat on top of the bottom one, and I hold them together.
You hold it together, yeah. Squish it together, yeah.
Put like the plastic.
That's really
Okay, there's a
plastic.
Yeah, that's
okay. There's a halacha that the schach and the walls have to be touching. The schach has to be. We spoke about this last year. Let's go over a little again. The schach and the walls have to be touching. The funnest magias the schach. Okay, now as long as it's within 3 tvachim, it's kosher. Loved. We know the concept of loved. That if it's not mabish touching, but it's within 3 tvachim, that's loved. It's like it's attached, and it's kosher. Now a sukkah has to have 3 walls. 2 full walls and another wall tefach. Altogether is a third of tefach, which
When you say
away. It's
touching,
4 tvachim.
do you mean actually physically touching or overlapping it?
We'll get to it in a minute, but it has to reach. Let's say for now touching. I'll get it in a minute. Technically, it has to be touching, but you could have lavud 3 tvachim away, or you could have what we say good asik. If let's say I want to have an airy sukkah, so I have walls that go up 10 tvachim high around me, and then the schach is high up here, but I say good asik, that the walls go up, as long as 10 tvachim wall, it goes up and it hits the schach. Okay? So that's good asik. Now there's a shaila, if the schach is removed from the wall a little bit, you say good asik, it doesn't mamash hit the schach, it misses it by an inch. The walls go up and misses the schach by an inch. So then you have a shaila of trei hilchasa, right? You have to say good asik and loved. So could you do both together? That's a whole machlokes here. You can do that.
My question is, in the example you gave of a metal sukkah where you're putting 2x4s between the metal,
right,
and the schach,
right?
So now the schach is resting on the board that's resting on the wall,
right?
In order to avoid metal.
Right. That's fine. It's closed. It's fully. Anyways,
no. What I'm saying is, so it doesn't actually have to rest on the wall of the sukkah. It just has to
be above the
sukkah.
Yeah, it has to be over the walls. So
right,
even if my walls are down here,
it doesn't have to physically touch the wall.
Yeah, as long as it's under, we say good asik. It's as if the wall goes up and hits it.
And if there's something in between, it's not a problem.
Yeah, Frank handles if there's a large ledge in between that's more than 40. That's not so clear. You have a large ledge in between. Does that stop the wall from going up? It's not so common, but that could be a shaila. If you have something in between that stops it from going up. But what is very common is like this. We have this concept of trei hilchas aloyim, you don't say trei hilchas, right? So, let's say most people build the sukkahs on the side of the house. Now there's an overhang on top, right? There's an overhang on top of the house. So whatever's over that overhang, under that overhang, is puzzle. It's puzzle l'schach because sukkah tachas abayis, right? So whatever's underneath that is puzzle. So the whatever's on the overhang is puzzle. So if it's 4 tfachim, that's 4 tfachim schach puzzle, and you can't sit under it. If it's less than 4 tfachim, okay, it's less than 4 tfachim schach puzzle. Overhang is, I don't know how long is it, but a foot is already a shaila of 4 tfachim. It's schach puzzle. So anything over the overhang, you shouldn't sit. So now what some people will do is they'll just won't put schach in that area. Anyways it's puzzle, so they won't put schach, and they'll start the schach further out. Okay, here's your overhang, and you're going to start your schach underneath over here. Okay, that's where you start your schach. Now, your wall is not. The question is it considered your wall is reaching the schach? Because what are you doing over here? You have a wall that goes all the way up till here. Then you have an overhang. Then we have to say we have to bring it down. We have suchavet rami. We have to bring the roof down to sort of hit the schach, and then that's how your schach is attached to the wall. It's called chavet rami. Not so bad. You say chavet rami, and my schach is touching the wall. Okay, if I do it, if I have 3 other walls in my sukkah, it's not relevant. I anyways have 3 other kosher walls. But sometimes the walls will have other problems. I have a tree over it, or I'll have maybe one has a door, it's very open, and you may need that middle wall that's against the house. So you have chavet rami, you bring down the roof, and it hits the thing. But let's say it's not matched up. Let's say your schach is a little pulled out over that. Even after you bring down the overhang, it doesn't hit there's a little space there. If it's more than 3 tfachim, you got a real problem. It's not loved. But if it's less than 3 tfachim, so you have to say chavet rami and loved. So that's a shiloh. It's trei hilchasa whether you could do.
So you're using the overhang as schach?
What?
Through chavet rami, you're using the overhang as schach?
You're using overhang as a wall. As a wall, it's puzzle schach, but it'll match up with the other schach. Yeah, you can use it as a wall because you have doifen akuma also.
If you have the schach going underneath that, it's not a problem.
If you use doifen akuma, you have to say doifen akuma, right? You can use schach puzzle up to dalaramas along the side as part of your wall. Your wall could go like this up to dalaramas schach puzzle, and then start your schach kosher. So you're using doifen akuma, chavet rami, and loved.
But can you can sit under that?
It's kosher, rather.
And you can sit under that?
No, you can't sit under that.
You can't sit under it.
The question is my rest of my
okay.
That I can't sit
What if it overlaps underneath?
Yeah, so it overlaps underneath, so that's just chavet rami. It seems that we could, it's always kedai to have schach go to the walls, so you for sure have all the shittas. But you can get into the shilas of attaching the schach in different ways. You have to have 3 walls to your sukkah. Now most sukkahs have 3 walls, but sometimes depending how you're building your sukkah, you don't have it. So the three walls have to be Shtayim Dar Revan, two that are attached to each other like this. Now, let's say someone showed me he built a sukkah on his deck in the back, so he has a gate there. So a gate is not a complete wall. It's slats going up, and a gate and a thing on top of it. So the question is, it's loved. Right? It's all attached with loved. Within 3 tvachim of each other, each wood. It goes around. That's the whole thing. You want to leave that to sukkah and just put schach on top. So first you have to make sure it's 10 tvachim high. Many of the gates are not 10 tvachim high, 40 inches high. 10 tvachim high. But let's say he has a gate, so you can make it a little higher. You know. So the question is it a kosher sukkah? Is it a kosher sukkah? So the Avraham says that a sukkah there's 3 of the 4 walls. If no, a sukkah that 4 of the walls are made with loved is not good. That's what Avraham holds. 4-walled sukkah made with loved is no good. Shiloh is a 3-wall sukkah made with loved, and the 4th wall you have the house. There's a house, you have to get into the day for the Akuma and all that, and the Chavod Rami and attaching it to that. But the other walls are made with loved, so it's a question if you can make a sukkah out of loved. The gate is a little better because it has a wood that goes across the whole top of the gate, and some say that that's better than, that's already a shasi ve'erev. That's not just that's not a mechitz of shasi. Loved is just shasi, just has one way. This has something going across the other way, it could be a little better. But there is a shiloh. You should have l'chatchila 2 woods, 7 tvachim long on the corner. On one corner you have Shtayim Dar Revan, and then it's good. And you have 4 tvachim on the other side. You should have. So you should have 7 tvachim walls around your sukkah. Even if you have. Now this is the gay a little bit. We get into the shiloh of the canvas sukkahs. Okay, you have a canvas sukkah. You have a canvas sukkah, right? You have a canvas sukkah. So we have 3 machlokes how to learn up, how to understand the canvas sukkah. The Mishnah Berurah says over here that you have a sukkah made out of trees that blow around. If it's strong, if you tie it down. A regular wind won't blow it, won't shake it. Tamid, you fill up all the space that it shouldn't blow it. So that it's kosher. This is a machabes, a shulchan aruch. You shouldn't make all the mechitzas out of ureas of pishtan, below kanam without any sticks. Even though you tie it, because sometimes it'll untie. Whatever. Okay, our canvas sukkahs usually don't untie. The old ones maybe did, but the new ones they make don't untie. They're made to, they go on the poles. You can't untie them. They don't tie. So you don't have this problem in Mechaber. The question is shaking. So what does it mean shaking? So Shlomo Zalman learns up the Mishnah Berurah holds that shaking means even a teeny drop shaking is no good, because your wall keeps on moving. So even a little bit shaking, you got problems. So according to Shlomo Zalman, he's not a fan of these canvas sukkahs. The Chazon Ish held the other extreme. The Chazon Ish held that as long as the wall is still a kosher wall, even if it's shaking from one side to the other side, as long as it's still attached on the top and the bottom, so it's a kosher wall, it's a kosher sukkah, as Chazon Ish held. There are those that hold in between that if it moves, everybody says over if it moves more than 3 tvachim. 3 tvachim is about 10 inches to, if it moves 9-10 inches leeway, that's a problem. One should be machbar on that. But there is an eitzah brought down in the Sharitzian here. There is an eitzah to fix up your canvas sukkah that it should be kosher l'chol adayis, which is a little chiddush. He says tie strings from the one pole to the other pole. Let's say you have 4 poles. Tie strings 3 tvachim away. You need 4 or 5 strings 3 tvachim away. Right? You tie it from the bottom higher across, and that's a wall. Loved. That's a wall. Right? You have a wall. So even if the canvas moves, I have a wall on the bottom. I do 3 walls like that. Obviously, the 4th side you got to walk in. You can't do it. We do 3 walls like that, and then you have a kosher sukkah. So the Sharitzian speaks out, even though we said that you don't make a sukkah out of lovud, But since it's tight anyways, so ein lahachmir. So you can make a so if it's tight, and so then you can tie the strings around, and even though it's a loved sukkah, it would be okay if you have what that. This is what Mishnah says over here. So even though the canvas you tie tight to make sure it doesn't, but just in case it moves, you still have the loved strings that go around the sukkah. And I said over last year, that was Baruch David Salvechik, so he had the brisker Rav, he has his father's sukkah, the brisker Rav sukkah. So that sukkah is built. The sukkah is built with 2 4x8 planks lying one on top of the other. It's an 8-foot high sukkah, so it's 4x8 planks along the walls, and then he hangs sheets on the wall. So normally you wouldn't be able to ask him this kasha. If you know Rabbi Salvechik, you can only ask him questions he won't answer you. But on Sukkot, he's besimcha also on Sukkot from the beginning to the end. His mamash, you can ask him anything you want to ask. So we asked him why do you hang sheets up on the sukkah? Why are you hanging sheets up along the walls of the sukkah? So he says 3 answers. Dry truths. He'll say 3 answers. The first reason is because the brisker Rav was cold. The brisker Rav was cold because the air came between the things. So that's why he's still hanging it up. So the second reason is, as I state in Mishnah, you hang up sadin for noise sukkah. Mishnah says you hang it on the roof, but we don't hang it on the roof, so you hang it on the sadin, you hang sheets up for noise sukkah along the side. The third reason, he says, the guy says you're not machshir a sukkah with lavud. So you have a little crack in between the boards. He doesn't want to be yaitz with a sukkah that you need to come on to lavud. So the oilam was hacking because you already have a kosher with sukkah without the bottom board is already kosher. It's already tall enough. It's 10 tefachim. It's to come on to lavud. It's v'shesi. Akopadim do such a shita that you don't use a lavud for a sukkah, but here where you have anyways, you have the canvas and you have things. So then you can make the sukkah with lavud. What time is it?
It's 10:18.
Way over time. Way over time over here. Anyways, all the proper. Let's make one more ha'ara here. Is that sukkah's ganvach is kosher. In other words, if a guy makes a sukkah, it's kosher. Even if he puts up the schach, it's kosher. But l'chatchila, you say chadash b'davar, which means if the guy puts up the schach, you should move it around. You should move it around the schach. But the evidence is kosher without that. Before, if the guy was hired, to put it up for you. It could be yad piles yad balabais. But l'chatchila, a person himself should put up the schach. Even if he has a guy build a sukkah, it's too hard for him to build a sukkah, but he should put up the schach himself. Tilcha for a mitzvah. Before, that's the right way to do it. It should be a yid he should put up the schach. Also, Ketanim and Noshim are the same problem. If your wife put up, also they're not mechuyev b'mitzvah, so they're not kosher to put it up. You have to be mechadish b'davar. You should shake it around if they put it up. Well, chatchila, a person himself should be a geya in the mitzvah and to put it up, and that's the proper way to do it. So if you can't schlep the wood, you can't build it. It's too hard for him. At least the schach should be mahadir. If you can't do that, it should be mechadish b'davar. We should push it up. A lot of people have goyim. A Ted builds the sukkahs, but you should put up the schach.
That's great. Thank you.